I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone, today is January. First thing I'm going to do is welcome our new member, Project. Welcome to the board. Welcome. Welcome. Next item on our agenda is approval of our minutes of the meeting conducted on December the 12th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes. Oh, you do? That would be during discussion.
No.
In the part where it says Jerry, you do something for us, just, and that after we choose yourself.
That's accurate.
That's true.
It's accurate to recuse yourself.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Richard, you still making a motion?
Yep.
Approve it as amended?
Yep.
Dan? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Going into the organizational meeting. Town board was kind enough to approve me for another year as chairman of the board.
Yeah.
The next item on
Congratulations.
Next item on the agenda is the appointment of legal counsel for our planning board. We have Baldwin, Sutton, and Petesky law firm as their counsel. It says to be discussed. We had a couple of kinks we had to work out, but we worked that out. Satisfied that everything was good. So, does anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion?
Judy, second by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Any-
Valerie.
Yeah.
Heather's close enough.
I'm sorry.
Well.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
I'll make a motion to appoint Miller Engineering as our planning board engineer.
Oh, I'll second.
Second by Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Doug.
Thank you. We did have discussion. I'll second it. I think you've done a great job for years, and I'm glad that you're back.
You don't want to use either one. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All motions carried unanimously. The last item on our organizational is the scheduling of our meetings. And you can see we normally do 2 meetings per month, but we are doing only 1 meeting in October and 1 in December. Unless you want to Christmas Day. I'll take a motion to approve the schedule. Judy?
Second.
Second by Richard. All in favor? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is Ron Diamond. This is scheduled today for a public hearing. Mr. Diamond is proposing a 2-lot subdivision on property located at 4911 Palmer Road. Lot 1 being 2.59 acres, and lot 2 being 32.17 acres. All on 2 different tax maps. 116-1-22.4, 116-1-22.2. Is there anybody here on behalf of the applicant? Okay.
Well, I'm happy.
You spoke to us before. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that? No. Madam Secretary, did we properly publish notice of the hearing? Is there any request for the reading of it?
I'll make the motion to waive the readings.
Motion to waive, second by Judy. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is hereby waived. Okay, would you be kind enough to lead us through seeker?
Yes, I will. I'm going to answer the following questions for a seeker. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that constitute the establishment of critical environmental area?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, bike, or walkway?
No.
Will the proposed action have an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the proposed action as existing public or private water supplies or public and private wastewater treatment?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, and fauna?
No.
The proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or prevent health? All these answers having been answered no, the chair can entertain motion for negative secret declaration.
I would so entertain a motion for negative declaration. Okay. In hand. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Negative declaration. I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing. Motion by Richard, second by Judy. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Public hearing is hereby open. If anyone would like to speak to us concerning this two-lot subdivision at 4911.
Make the motion to close the public hearing.
There being no one present wanting to speak, public hearing motion has been made by Richard, second by Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Public hearing is hereby closed. We're not required to write the county. This has been their, not required to get a recommendation or opinion of the county on this one. It's only a two-lot subdivision. Therefore, we are all set to make a.
The driveway.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question too. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We got a letter, the driveway. That we wanted to say, well, that they had no problem.
Is it the county? Is that a county road? So we don't have a problem with curb cut for lot one. Okay.
Therefore, I would entertain a motion to move forward with subdivision. Yes.
For the ease of delineating this again in the future, I know that that's the existing center line on there. The future driveway is already a gravel driveway. And so it's like you just want to use that as the center line. But as far as putting an easement on that and making it cleaner documentation wise, it might be suggestions. Let's keep the sketch worked out a little bit. It's pretty steep, but it might make sense to work that out a little bit and then show where it enters the existing gravel drive and how the curb cut works. A little bit more detail. Doesn't have to be done. Just a suggestion.
I'm just trying to follow you. This meeting, sorry.
So the existing driveway, the center line of the future driveway is an existing gravel driveway. And it kind of curves through along the station. And to make that new parcel, we need an easement. It says 20-foot wide easement. And it might make things a little bit cleaner and neater and easier in the future, should that be to delineate that center line of that road, your driveway a little bit better, and then how that interacts with the existing driveway, should they be in the future owned by two different parties?
It's used, where's the easement that shows up? Well, that's for lot 2.
Yeah.
Right. But we're talking about curb cut for lot 1.
Yeah, so
I'm
this,
not sure I understand.
this lot, they're wanting to break out,
Yes.
this center line is the proposed driveway. You see what I mean?
I do.
Okay.
We do now, we do, that is actually a very good point. Mr. Diamond, would it be possible for you to submit a slightly modified plan showing, we need what we call a declaration of easement. It's a legal document explaining the easement and giving legal description of the easement, showing on the map. So we have exactly where that easement is going to be for access.
Which we need to do anyways, once we
Yes,
sell our house.
You would, and candidly, after Aaron made that point, it's a very good point, and we really should see it on the final plan, so that there's no question as to how that 20-foot easement is. If there's verbiage here about the 20 feet, but it's not being shown, and we would need a legal description, and it would need to be recorded. Now, council would review that.
Do you have a council see the map?
In terms of an
A
engineer.
lawyer? Lawyer?
Oh, yeah, we have a lawyer.
Oh, yeah. Who's that?
Yeah.
What's happening is that our house,
Yeah.
my son and wife will move in.
Right.
With an easement to. It'll probably never be sold. But we're very fortunate. Two of our 4 kids have decided to stay.
We can't.
Here
really
and-
like when
No, I understand it's much too steep. It would make things a lot easier for the documentation if you had that a little bit better delineation.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting you change the center line of your gravel driveway, you kind of got it where it needs to be.
Right.
But showing that offset, that 20-foot easement, and then especially how they interact, that driveway interacts with the existing driveway with regards to what happens here. Because should it be sold someday,
Yeah.
this could hold it up.
So would the lawyer know all the specific need or should-
I don't know.
Lawyer normally would, but he's certainly looking. He's here working on work. It is, I wonder, you said your daughter-in-law?
It would be her or Julie Renner.
Oh, Julie, or would it be?
Well, we've got.
Are they local?
Julie's in Tully. She doesn't.
I guess that's why I would ask the question to Bill about a curb cut for lot 1 as opposed to coming off lot 2. I do not want an easement across 2 to get to 1. Just
I think we discussed this at the last meeting. We did discuss the right of way. And if you look at the recommendations that came back from the county, the recommendations from the county are the same. That there's a certain setback off of Palmer Road that they want to see that easement at. So I think, like Jamie's saying, if your attorney could call Jamie and we could get those. Yeah, we could get that information from county DOT and we should be all set.
We just would like it to start in the springs.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Well, that shouldn't
Yeah.
be an issue, and the surveyor is.
From,
Yes, yes, so he'll be able to understand, and then actual written document, I have a sample I can send you.
oh, that would be helpful. And then.
It would be subject to our review to just make sure it's fine. But we signed the final approval, and until we get that, and we see this, we have it that shows.
All right.
And this is not something hard or difficult. Those offices certainly capable of providing.
And you're gonna have to go.
Yes, yes, have your attorney call.
So we need a legal description of.
I guess what I'm saying is I'd rather have a curb cut for lot one than an easement across lot two to get the lot.
County doesn't
They
want it.
can't.
County doesn't,
County said no,
county said no for lot one.
so they gotta come off that.
Yes.
Okay. The back.
640.
I don't think it's a legal one on this road.
Yeah.
That's a copy.
So now, now that we've discussed this in more detail, and we've added one additional requirement to it, I would still entertain a motion relative to approving or not approving this subdivision.
So
Subject to receipt of an easement to be recorded and modified and
approved by our attorney.
approved by the council.
I'll make them.
Motion made by Richard and seconded by Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Your subdivision request is being approved, subject only to modifying the map.
We have to do all that.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is an application by A&E Center in regard to a possible decision today on the site plan approval for Med Spa behind the resort lifestyles. We have previously conducted a public hearing. We have received from the town zoning board of appeals 2 variances as required for the loading dock for the ranch. The question we have for you is whether or not the final report that I did see come in dated January 4th from the applicant, whether that is appropriate relative to what you're concerned.
Yeah, it looked good, but Aaron and I were just talking. Aaron's a new member. She came up with a couple comments that we probably should go over. Just that some of the contouring and some other things.
And Aaron,
I didn't mean to put you on this spot.
So I haven't seen the project, and it's been submitted, I understand, back and forth for some time, and if you could just clarify a few things for me, I really. appreciate
Sure.
it. Do you want to put it up on the screen, or
I can.
that would be probably helpful? But anyway, I'll get started. I've probably got 8 or 10 comments or questions really here, starting on sheet C6. And some of these, Doug said, have already been addressed, maybe so. Scratch this. Get through it. I just want to make sure. I understand.
C6.
Yep. So looking up in the northwest corner of the property where the entrance is, there's a lot of uncaptured runoff there, given the placement of catch basins. And at 7%, that's fairly steep. And I think that there's a lot of runoff. There's only very little that's going to be collected in that catch basin that's down by the right of way. And then the rest of all that runoff, which is a fairly steep slope, is going to just end up going into where the curb line is and running down the road. Should it make it into the catch basin at the corner of Ave Rail and Medical Center Drive? And I think that that could be a concern in the winter, especially with icing and and that kind of thing. I think it's something that could be remedied by tweaking the grading.
Yeah, I mean, we do a few things. I mean, we can put a little bit more of a crown in the driveway, or we put a trench drain. I mean, really, that would be about the best solution. We have to be cautious with the National Grid easement and the sidewalk easement, but
Yeah.
that would capture the most water. be put a trench drain across the driveway.
Yep, I think that's possible, or crowning it, you know, I know trench drains. That's a problem to me, that's why it's the long run.
We'd
So
probably
that
make
might-
it a wider one
Yeah.
than you typically see, just to alleviate those issues with
Yeah.
it getting clogged with leaves and whatnot, but, yeah, we looked at that. We did put that one catch basin down out at the road to try to catch as much as we can, and, you know, we can certainly take a look at adjusting the crown of the road.
Yeah, there's really not much getting into that one at the end.
Right, well, it's catching what's coming down the curb line and then what's coming across the road. So,
Yeah,
but we can adjust those.
I think that might ultimately be helpful. Now, I think that, you might not have this information yet, but the basin area is like 17-foot cut, and I wondered if you've done borings with building yet to know if that's practical.
We have not done borings yet, but I do know, I mean, this area, a lot of it is imported fill.
Okay.
From when they built medical center, you know, they took a lot of that dirt and put it here.
Right.
So a lot of that's coming out just because it's on, you know, it's not structural material.
Sure.
Could you expand on that? Because I asked a question weeks, months ago, if any material was coming off the site, and the answer was no. Because I know it's fill, and I was concerned about
The,
action, and so,
so in the building footprint, we've got to deal with, you know, we got to make sure it's structurally sound. And
Right.
when we do the geotech, we'll get those answers. In the area of the parking lot, and the concern was how much of it's coming off. It's, you know, top of the hill, and we bringing it down.
Right, right.
And we are taking a little bit off of that. As we show on this grading, and bringing the surface drainage to the infiltration basin. You know, you've got this bridge that runs north and south through about the middle of the parking lot. We're taking that off. I gave the impression we're not taking any dirt off. I apologize. We are, you know, there is some,
that's being exported.
yes.
All right, thank you.
I mean, it's not, I'll tell you, it's not the earthwork that was down around us. We're not taking that much dirt.
But you haven't done the borings yet, so you don't know exactly.
No, but it's not, we're not gonna hit bedrock. So to answer the question about, is it feasible for that basin to be built in that cut? The bedrock's not gonna be at -10. It's all deeper, because this is, you know, that fill.
Okay, all right.
And then kind of tying into that question, and we don't have to pull up the page, but detail 1 on C9, the standard asphalt pavement sections. I questioned a little bit whether 8 inches is enough subbase under the circumstances. And I know that it says that pavement sections will be confirmed with the geotech report. So is that something that you possibly share with us? And if you're gonna revise your pavement sections based
Yeah,
on the
once we get the borings done, we'll have a couple taken in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, that 8 inches is something we've used in a lot of places where we even have clay. So, you know, we start there, but if we need to go to a 12-inch sub base, I mean, we'll do what we gotta do to make it stable.
But that will all come off the geotech.
Yes.
Okay. There's the spot at where the parking lot meets the sidewalk, the northwest end of the building. And there's a retaining wall proposed there.
Yes.
So I'm a little bit concerned about the drop off, because it's a significant drop off there. I wrote it's 4.5 feet high of a drop off on that retaining wall, which butts right up against the parking lot. And if someone were to step out of that parking spot on the passenger side and misstep, they would step right off the edge of that retaining wall, 4.5 foot high. So it's less of a concern as you turn the bend and head north, because there's a planting bed there and there's some space. But I think that first run, at least of the retaining wall, needs to have a guardrail on it.
Yeah, I mean, we probably, you know, got, as far as somebody stepping out, a guide rail's not a site person necessarily.
No, I mean like, not a vehicle, guard,
Right.
a pedestrian. Like you see.
Well, yeah, we'll put something on.
And again, that corner is a good example, I think, of where the drainage, like there might want to be a catch basin. Like, I think that some of the drainage with the way the catch basins are placed and the way that the parking lot is sloped, they're not really catching effectively.
Well, we've looked at the grade breaks and everything. We spaced catch basins, some of that is where we have turns in the pipe, where there's deflections, we put the structures there, so they're not necessarily for drainage concern. I mean, they will catch one off because it'll be a grate, but we have put structures at all of the grade breaks where we're forming that channel to come into it. And we know, the drainage area for any one of these catch basins is definitely less than half an acre.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about that, but that, like catch basin 2, for example, given the way that the contour lines are shown, isn't really catching much water because it's a straight contour line above it. If there were breaks in the pavement, it would be point on the contour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it may be just something that you have in your specs for a general note, but
Well, we can look at some of those locations. Well, yeah, and again, the ones that aren't catching a tremendous amount, I mean, they're located for, we put some of these pipes in for roof drainage, duct for roof drainage, and the way we're trying to get the pipe network into the underground system.
yeah, I understand.
It's not the way it is. So, but we can look at the catch basin locations, see if we can improve some of them.
It would just be tweaking even the grading a little bit. Not necessarily a lot of the locations, I guess, that's entirely up to you, but it might help to an easier uphill situation too. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it or anything, but there's granite curbing right now in this development, and I would really like to see, instead of concrete, I would really like to see granite curbing up the length of the entrance and on those curb returns and then transition to concrete site. Is that something that you'd be willing to do?
I'd have to talk over.
Can I get a little bit more clarification on the report? What you mean by? I don't know.
So she's on the driveway. Come up into the site.
How much space do we need? Footage of. Just.
Figure it out.
A few hundred feet. I think that the durability and matching the character in the area would be really important, especially if the concrete gets. Especially if they're going to be salting that really heavy steep. Then there's a couple other walls on the site. There's one at the north edge of the parking lot. It's about 7 feet high. It's its highest. And then there's the one at the basin as well. But one of the things that I had a question about was, it's not so much the height that's a concern on the one along the north edge of the parking lot. That would be something to consider. That typically we see like an offset from the edge of the pavement to the base of the wall, rather than have the wall butting right up against tight to the curb line. And I know that it was probably really tight to try and squeeze that in at the property line, and that's a lot of cut.
I'll try to preserve those trees.
So that's kind of my next question is, if this is a segmental stacked retaining wall, that line doesn't really thickness take into account the plan of disturbance that would be required to install that kind of wall, especially with the geogrid or whatever else you have to do structurally, considering this is a lot of fill. So I think the disturbance line in your area is going to go back.
This wall, along the driveway side, that's in cut. So we're not filling.
No, I mean that it used to, it's all fill.
Right,
not
oh,
in there.
okay.
So I just feel like, I know that the wall will get designed by the contractor during the submittal phase of the project, but I feel like there's gonna be a far deeper cut there, given the height of the wall and the material of the wall that isn't reflected on the plan, and those trees could be separate, especially since we like to see a bit of several 3 feet maybe from the curb line to the face of the wall. Because people drive in until their field, or back in and stuff, that wall will get hit all the time.
Well, and we can put bumpers, that would be the other. way to
Yeah, they
attack
tend
that.
to cause snowplow.
Karen, do you have a recommendation?
I think that we should see a section from the proposed wall manufacturer. They create those for free, basically. And then it could be a basis of design one. And then just to get an idea of the section and elevation of what that might look like, I would propose that we see those on all of the retaining walls on the site. You know, the little one back here is, I wouldn't worry about that one, to be honest, I guess, but the one by the pond, infiltration basin, and the one along the edge of the parking lot, I think would be really important to look at, especially how they tie into the other structural elements of the building. And the way that it connects together with what's going on under the pavement, and should the geogrid cause any problems for the other items that are proposed to be there. It should only take a couple weeks, right? You know who you want to work with.
For the walls, no, we haven't put together construction documents yet.
They should be able to give you just a quick, just to make sure, because I'm worried that those are gonna be a bigger impact than this. I have a question about how the grading works, where the steps are in front of the building with relation to the adjacent parking. So is there a wall between? the
Yeah,
two?
I mean, there's gonna have to be steps. Tree. Or the other way to handle it, here on the entry into the building itself would be at the parking lot grade, and then the steps inside to get to the first finished floor elevation. And that's something we have to work out with the architect there, because of the grade of the parking lot, which needs to be what it is in order to meet the grade of the driveway. And everything kind of falls together in different puzzle pieces. And so that entrance,
You're talking about the one on the north, the
yes,
two north ones. I think that's a big difference, and I think that we would probably like to know if it's something that's gonna be dealt with inside the building or not. Because to have the parking lot at 508 and then the finished floor entrance of the building at 514, that's a big difference. So visually, what is that gonna look like? And how is the grade change gonna work between the wall and the steps, and then as it returns back to the building? I think on the planting plan, there's plants shown in all along in those sections of the building, and I'm not so sure that that's possible, given that those are about 2-to-1 slope between the sidewalk and the building. I think that that's something we need to look at. I'm not saying it can't be done. I think there's plenty of ways to do it. I want to know what you're proposing.
we'll have to take a look. I'll have to talk to the architect to see, what ways, that we can do, work with it within the building and make it work. So,
I think this is really simple, but the 2-to-1 slopes shown on the south and north ends of the site are shown as lawn areas in the landscaping plan, and that might be better suited to some other type of surface cover than lawn, given the steepness and the maintenance that's involved in difficulty maintaining.
we were thinking it would be, reinforced with geogrid or, some other type of fabric to hold it back. But we want it vegetated. We didn't want,
Yeah,
we don't want to rip wrap it.
no, I'm just
So-
saying, I don't think lawn and grass is gonna work because it's so steep. people don't want to mow it, and then they end up not mowing it.
Well, we can do like a low mow seed.
What
And
about,
there's other ways to attack it other than,
okay,
technical.
if it could just be shown as not mowable. Well, I think that becomes a maintenance problem. Ends up looking pretty ratty. It's hard to mow, and then the mowers push the soil down and all. That was it for that one, and then on C4, I don't have.
So I could, so before we get to that, so there's a number of things I'm trying to keep track of it in lay words. So if we can, if we're going to try to give it approval, then we need to be fairly specific about what needs to be on the plan, unless we have to come back with these changes. So that's, up to you. We can talk about what needs to go on the plan specifically, so that it can be reviewed. If you approved and reviewed, or they have to bring it back. And really suggestions.
There's a number of those. Brad, what is your desire?
To get a conditional approval with us addressing these items, and that's my desire. We can address these items. And it's just, we've been going after this a long time.
And if I may add, many of these details and concerns are actually added in later phases when we're into construction documents and actually understanding how these systems and these assemblies are put together. And this early on in the planning stage is just the next level of detail that we will eventually get to. But from approval process at this stage, it's usually not done right now immediately. It's kind of, we will be dealing with
I
it.
think it's a mixed bag. I think some of them are.
I would like to read as parking spaces.
Well, we're not gonna lose parking.
Yeah,
But the
that is
retaining
the-
wall has to move.
It's not, I don't think they. I only try to focus on things that I consider to be health, safety, and welfare issues, not cosmetic issues.
Well,
And
granite
ultimately
curbing
cost-
to me is a cosmetic.
Well, I mean, it's a maintenance issue as well.
I mean, it's something that we never required
No,
in
and
the
that's,
town of Manlius.
okay, well, that one, there's a couple in here that might not be, but I think in general, I mean, changing the granite out to that section granite is not a big deal, but obviously it's my first time looking at the drawings, so this was just as I was going through. And,
There's nothing here that either A, we find disagreeable, so far as comments, or that we can't get addressed.
Yeah, I've got a clientele that's becoming 35. It's an elderly clientele, a certain percentage of our business. So I'm going to definitely be looking at the so there'll be no options for anybody.
I don't consider any of my comments to be deal breakers, but I think they are things that should be considered, before final. The one that I have on the C4 is the handicap ramps. Where are they?
We will
For-
definitely.
For the parking space,
That's kind of important.
For entrance?
Right.
Oh, we're definitely heading.
Right, but where?
well, we've got this graded, and it's all, parking spaces themselves are 2% to meet ADA requirements. The routes into the building, I believe, and they're less than 5%.
Sure, I can check, I'm not looking at your grades, I feel like the understanding the circulation on the site is a little bit confusing. And understanding the circulation on the site is sort of a prime planning board approval process, so. Knowing how these handicap spaces are getting into the building, and then I'm assuming it's gonna be handled internally to get it to the other parts.
Is it ground floor? I know it's 2 stories in the back.
Yep.
Is
it's all
it,
of
is
it.
it
All of it.
ground level?
And we will be providing access around the building. Any grade changes on the outside, it can be solved.
I think that's definitely reasonable, if they would do it inside.
All of our building functions in the interior.
They'll have an elevator and stairs and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Ron, I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
You had mentioned earlier sidewalk easement.
Yes.
Who's the easement to?
To my knowledge. So I looked into this, we have nothing in our files about a written file easement. It was something that shows up on the subdivision plan that was filed with the county.
Yeah.
That says it's to the town.
So this, the existing sidewalk that's there, that's kind of gravel or.
Stone dust.
You're gonna improve that into concrete.
Make it concrete.
And then what is the understanding of who's gonna repair, maintain, plow it, salt it?
Yeah,
Pardon?
the owner.
The owner. Then why does the town get an easement?
To allow people to access the property. Otherwise it's trespass.
Okay, so it
It's
is.
an access easement
Okay.
to allow
It's
somebody
nothing to do
to.
with maintenance.
No,
Okay.
no,
And
that
so
was that,
we need-
and understand, that was
It's on.
the late stages of the RLC project.
Yeah.
I mean, very late, like we're here tonight looking for site plan approval. It was thrown out.
Have you seen the, you haven't seen it?
There's no work, there's no written
But
easement.
it's on.
Okay, just.
So Rod's
allowing.
right, it was at the last moment, it was Susan. Susan wanted that, and the easement was for access, and all maintenance is by the property.
Okay, and that is part of the approval process.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay. So you claim it's.
Well, I mean, the easement's not gonna go away. To continue to allow people, the public access across the property. And Mr. Pop has agreed to make that a concrete sidewalk, which he will maintain as part of the site plan.
And the sidewalk that's there now doesn't even go the whole length of the property, it just ends and it goes nowhere.
The existing one, that's exactly right. The existing one.
It goes nowhere.
That's right.
Yeah, it ends at the RLC driveway and then goes off the site.
And so is that basically what's gonna be built?
My understanding based on our last meeting, 2 meetings ago, was that that sidewalk was going to start where the entrance is. And go all the way around to the end of my property. And that's extending it to where it is now. It's physically not there now.
All right. So again, I mean, I know that there's this push for sidewalks, but sidewalks to nowhere doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
That was my question at the meeting or two ago, is
We
the sidewalk should end.
Well, who's ever-
Building, I think the board pretty much is. Across the way, yeah.
Yeah, but what's across the street is the same thing.
That's not, let's leave them out of this, please.
Yeah, it's just.
I will say too, that we are gonna have to do some regrading. I just wanted to clean, that stone dust path.
It's crooked.
It's crooked, yeah, I mean, it's slanted, yeah.
We're
Yeah,
cleaning that, we're gonna clean that all up.
and you'll widen it, I would assume.
That's
It's 5 foot side, it's a 5 foot side.
I think it's lovely. I think having it there is a great idea. I think it improves walkability of the whole area and allows people who probably live in those lower buildings to get through
And
the
it's
site.
Fairly flat, honestly, and when we thought the grading exercise was gonna be trouble, but it actually turned out.
Looking at the site, yeah, I would imagine.
But flattening it out, just flattening the cross section out actually didn't turn out.
I've never seen a person on that sidewalk, so that's just me.
So if we go back, again to Eric's, so about the accessibility. I just want to check, the handicap spaces where they're located and those entrances that are primary entrances, number 1.
Yeah. This
So
one,
those are flat ground level from the park.
correct. Yes. And there's a little bit of a pitch just to get
And
those
the
frames.
first two there as well, or the number 2 that's in the.
Yes, so both of these entrances are accessible. And when I say accessible, they're ADA compliant. I don't like to use the term handicap, but so they're ADA accessible, ADA compliant routes from the parking into the building.
So if we're gonna possibly see some of this stuff, like kind of tweaked and maybe taken, to the next step here, I think it would be really important to see the locations of those
So you,
drawn on here to scale. Because if they're where the striped parts of the handicap parking spaces are, you know, the signs are shown there, but that's no big deal. I know those movies, but it's not comfortable for people a lot of times who are walking, especially in the medical offices, to have to cross the slanted parts of the curb ramp.
So
to
this, that they're, I'm sure I'm saying this, it's not a typical where this sidewalk is 6 inches above the park. So we don't have the
Also,
standard,
those don't have,
correct,
there's no curb for that.
there's no curb ramp, there's no
Okay, I'm
traditional
sorry.
curb ramp.
So, because they can't see the grading coming out the other side, the grading plan, that's why I was. If you look at grading plan, the contours don't completely cross. So. I just want to make sure that people, that's a pretty small parking, or pretty small width of sidewalk could be funneling all, you know, not like everybody's all coming at once, I get that case, but the nuances of how that kind of works and to make sure that the handicap ramp is lined up, either lined up with the entrance in a way that people can maneuver through there easily, especially when you get snow. I think you know what I'm asking.
Yeah, we can look to adjust that,
It could be as simple as bumping out the concrete and making the sidewalk a little bit wider there. It's really tight.
I'm uncomfortable getting into this area. I am not a code enforcement officer. I'm not an engineer, and we're getting into areas that I think go beyond the planning board should do. I just want to throw that out. That's my. Pardon? Maybe not, but when we get into handicap ramps and so on and so forth, that's something, when they go to get a building permit, they look at the building plan. We're not looking at construction plans. We're looking at a site plan. And so when we get to construction drawings, and a code enforcement officer has to look at it from elevations and ramps and so on and so forth, that's beyond what we do here. And that's just my opinion. Other people may have different.
Well, what I don't want to have happen is we just get bogged down in a quagmire here.
Done.
But I think there's two ways of handling this. One way of handling it is to postpone this for another day. The other way of handling it is for Aaron to enumerate, I believe there were 9 issues that you had set forth. And
Some of
and
them
if you would enumerate them and see whether the applicant is willing to agree to those, then we can move forward.
I certainly want to meet all the demands. It's really nothing that I'm not going to argue over. If when working with architects and builders and whatnot, I don't have sufficient space to allow my clientele to be able to enter and exit on a very easy basis, I'll adjust it. I mean, I have no issues with making it the way it should be made. And that's the least.
I'll leave it there. What I think it's solvable. You meet every 2 weeks, so we'll meet every 2 weeks, right?
but I need to have the plans in 2 days.
Well,
I can't meet that.
But if a few of these items, I think some were already sort of, I was keeping track as best I could, right, in my lay words. There's a few things, that we might, be able to basically decide as a board if this is what, you want. I know one of them is the granite curbing, the lengthy entrance. One is on that, there's a guardrail issue. There would, these are things that are more of a site plan issue. The crown in the driveway, and the trench drain, maybe that's something we need to talk about. The lawn, a note on the plan about the lawn is done. And I think that handicap issue, because it affects the site plan with the sidewalks and stuff, it's a site plan issue. Can I miss anything major here?
Retaining walls.
I thought you kind of had that. Yeah, the retaining walls. but I
Yeah,
think
the
you
drop
had said
off
that.
ground wall, or that's a different one, retaining walls.
So the grade differential at the retaining wall near the building. I think it's solvable, but it just needs a little bit more. We need to have a little bit more information, because if it's not taken care of, it could be a problem. And this is the last opportunity for the town to see the drawings. I understand that construction documents and all these details, a lot of them get worked out later. But this is the town's last opportunity to have say in a lot of how this stuff comes together. And the wall along the top, I know, I absolutely agree, there needs to be a wall there. But I think that it needs to be thought about one or two steps ahead and how that's practically going to be installed, so that if they're trying to protect those trees and they can't because the geogrid has to go into the wall, then and then those trees are gone, and that's a screening item, that's something the planning board would be interested in. You know, there are ways of doing it that are not a segmented retaining wall. There's significantly more cost in fact, but the owner deserves the opportunity to know what they're getting into. You approve this plan the way it's shown, and then they find out they can't do something, or there's a problem that's costing a ton of money to do it the way it is shown. I think it's worth looking at a couple of these things now that affect the way the property looks in the final stance, as well as the health, safety, and welfare items. I do not think it's going to be a problem at all for them to deal with this handicap stuff at the entrance. I just want to see it on the drawings so that we know what it's going to be like. Because there's nothing worse than coming into something and you don't understand how it's set up, or you're walking across weird things. And then seeing how the stairs and parking lot grade differentials are resolved at the north end of the building, I think is really important, because that's a significant grade change between the parking lot. Is there going to be a steep wall there? Is that going to be a safety issue? Is it, you know, I know they fixed the grade in the building too, and, you know, but maybe we need to see that in writing somewhere so that we don't, this doesn't end up leaving our desk and things get changed, that then when it's being built, we're like, well, that's not. So that's all I have on the project. And I apologize for the way that I'm doing this, because this is the first time I've seen it. I don't think anything is that unusual, and a lot of it could be handled with some quick sections, adding a sheet with some quick sections on it so that we know generally what they're proposing in the engineering.
Is this gonna, excuse me, is this gonna be one phase? That building will be built in total all at once?
Yes. This round, just one more time, and I appreciate all your input. This is a medical practice that's been around since 1967. So the most important thing for us is for the safety and the loyalty of our clients. So, you know, entrance ways, is it wide enough? It's the very first thing that I'm going to have to address. Otherwise, my clients aren't going to be able to access the building. It's been around for over 50 years. No,
You don't take any of my comments in the slide on your.
no, it's just that I understand the concerns, and we're certainly going to address them. Certainly.
I know, and we just want to make sure that we understand how. That's all. I'm not asking for final construction documents, just some sections showing how the grade changes are going to happen would be a really easy way to do it. And a submittal, you know, a generated drawing on how the wall reinforcing are going to work on the parking lot. It can change the layout of things, and the layout is something that we are. That's all.
When I asked the question, is this gonna be one phase? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Doug, the sheet that you gave us in November, is anything done on that?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm hearing a small laundry list of items. I've heard from you that you're willing to go along with just about every one of them. The one that's going to be an issue is redoing the drawings to show us the grade differential, retaining walls, whatnot. And I don't know how we can proceed forward tonight without that. See, you got a suggestion.
If I may, I believe if you go through the list that actually was just gone through, there was only one life safety issue, which was the guardrail at the grade of the retaining walls. Everything else is not a safety issue. Am I correct in that assumption? Because if that's the case, then we can, if it's already with the board to receive additional approval in knowing we will add a guardrail or safety measure at the top of that retaining wall, and then deal with all other issues by adding additional details.
What was the last thing you said?
That if that's the only life safety concern, that if we were to agree that we would provide a guardrail at the top of that retaining wall with the grade differential, then we could be received additional approval based on that understanding.
A lot of this is final, it's final engineering, which you granted other projects approval based on receiving final engineering approval.
And us as the licensed professionals take on all liabilities for all accessibility and life safety issues. Okay, so we will not be providing documents in which that life safety is not upheld. So any of moving forward, any of this documentation, you will be assured that every licensed professional that moves forward and proposes any construction documents for building permit will adhere to those life safety concerns. So we would not be adhering to.
I don't think that any of it's would hold up their approval. I think it's stuff that if it's written in the motion, it can just be worked out. You've got a deadline to meet, right?
Right.
And I think that it's important that it gets documented and the town makes sure that we're happy with these. But these are living documents. They change as time goes on. And as long as we get the document that shows stuff and we're happy with it, then it's fine. It's nothing is needs to, I don't think they need to be back. If it, as the person who came up with all these comments, I know this is unorthodox, but I wouldn't personally think that any of these things prevent an approval if there's a mechanism to review the things that they're submitting that can be viewed. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the list, right? I've got either the crown or a trench drain, guide rail. Take a second look at some of the catch basin locations. What debris to the concrete versus the granite.
Where's it specific?
Is that the return?
Cross sections on some of the RE walls.
It's the radius.
The returns from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cross sections on some of the RE walls. Some detail on the ADA parking, the lawn mowing, and the steps coming up the left, right?
Yep.
So I think
Okay,
maybe.
so stop.
So maybe I
Does
think what
everyone
we.
agree, do you agree with that, Eric?
So maybe I think what we would do. We would get a
Okay.
detail sheet with those details. Right, and then we could look at those details, because I think that's really what we're
Yep.
talking about. It's
I
just
think
getting
we
into some
have
more
it.
detail.
We have it.
For the conditions, they've expressed they're willing to accommodate all of them. And we
Yeah.
made
But I'm thinking, we won't lose control of what they're doing. They're returning to the terms.
Yeah, again, my intention was always, that Doug would review this. You would get the last blush before final approval, final, right? So.
All these recommendations are fine. Correct. I have no objection to any of them.
This is the final.
Well,
board
but,
approval subject to.
correct, yeah.
Well, subject to engineering and legal, because.
And specifically, if the motion were motion to approve as presented, subject to the following 11 items being addressed by engineering.
Consider.
I would entertain that motion.
Second,
Wait.
with comments, because there could be other engineering issues beyond what we just discussed.
Right, and
So they can always,
In legal and legal,
Okay, so-
right,
you would always have control of those.
so those specific though would be good to put out so we know what those are, subject to a final legal and engineering. And also, one of the things that we discussed earlier, we haven't discussed today, is that the uses be as presented on the plan. Substantially as presented, because those are important to our control. So we're going to be a condition. Also the finding that the variances on the road and block transfer.
And a comment to follow up on that is that the variance was granted for the loading dock and the garbage removal. And can we put hours of operation on those things so you're not
No.
there? So we can't say you can't collect garbage in the morning? That's why.
I was gonna throw in one additional. Subject to pulling the building permit. Is that doable?
The only reason I do is things are, it's a crazy world, getting everything.
No, it's for extension.
Okay.
And my understanding would be if any of these 11 plus engineering conditions require any sort of changes, they would come back for an amendment.
Yes, yeah, that'd be my understanding.
Did you
Arnie,
do
did I
the
see
sign?
you make a motion?
No,
Sign's not done yet either. Maybe something.
I'll say.
The sign, no sign is approved.
No.
correct. Didn't show that because of the other project you wanted me to take off.
Okay. Folks, we have a motion made by Arnie, motion second by Richard. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Bye.
Next item on our agenda is an application by Rolex Enterprises. It's been referred to us by the town board, asking for a recommendation regarding a zone change. RA to commercial, RA and commercial to R3. This is for Mengen Farms, Route 5 to Genesee Street and Strawmont Trail. You can't say that numbers.
Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you. Attachment number is 082-2-1-2 and 082-2-1-3. We previously conducted a hearing. At that hearing, or prior to it, we heard from 36 people in writing who sent in emails and letters. We also reviewed a petition from 138 other citizens relative to this project, and we heard from the public that day. I have distributed a possible proposed resolution that council has drawn in the event you think it's appropriate, or what you think is appropriate. It's on to discussion this evening as to whether to make a positive recommendation to the town or a negative recommendation to the town.
I would agree with Ann, given some of the difficulties of that site and the background.
Can you speak up a little bit, please? You can't hear you back here.
I'm just saying that I would agree with Ann that because of some of the comments that came back, the location of the property, the traffic going on the Straw Mount, a number of issues, I would say that I would recommend, would be my opinion, to recommend a negative approval for the zone change.
I echo everything that Richard said.
Right?
I agree.
I'm in agreement as well. We have 95 houses that were built there, single family homes that were built with the understanding that the zoning was one thing. And if the zoning changes to a second item to what the R3 that they're looking for, it's going to be significantly different than what all the neighbors who have built their homes there have expected and anticipated. We also have a critical issue dealing with sewage and the Village of Chenango mayor has come and spoken to us. She has told us that the agreement was 85 homes. We are now at 95 homes on their system. The mayor has told us that they cannot handle any increase, that they had a catastrophic failure earlier this year, that cannot handle any increase. Would not make sense. So I'm in support of the resolution that's brought by council. I would entertain a motion by someone.
Resolution. This is the recommendation to the town of Manlius from referral from the town board relative to the request for zone of change of the applicant for the premises from RA primarily in CA, a small portion, to R3. This board has held an informational public hearing on December 12, 2002, intending to solicit the input of the surrounding neighbors and other residents on the issue of the potential zone. The board also previously heard in the village of Chenango mayor relative to the school plan capacity and ideas. If you want that in, the chair said that we heard from how many?
36 letters and emails. A petition signed by 138 individuals.
Okay, I'll add that. The nature of all such comments are fully set forth in the public record, minutes of the meeting, and are incorporated herein by reference. This board hereby determines that a zone change is not warranted for these affected parcels, therefore recommends the town board not rezone the properties as requested by the applicant for the following reasons as set forth below. Number one, the housing that would be permitted in the R3 zoning designation is not compatible with the adjacent residential housing, which is nearly fully built out with single family housing of an upscale nature with well-sized lots of yards and significant buffering between properties. An R3 zoning designation would allow for a much greater density of housing than it is allowed in the current zoning designation RA. Further, the housing of townhouse and duplex character in close proximity to the single family homes is not desirable for this area. Next, absent compelling reasons that would benefit the town or community, the purchasers of the single family residential properties in the current Manlius farms should be able to rely upon the zoning designation of its neighboring parcels to determine what type of development may be present near their residential property. A change of a significant nature that would ensue upon a zone change and which may be compatible with the reasonable expectations of the neighbors should not be made. The significant drainage and stormwater issues that have been presented cannot be ignored at this juncture, forbidding or denying future more dense development with zone change. Next, the town board is in the midst of a complete comprehensive plan for the town, and it would be imprudent to recommend a zone change for this single area until full comprehensive review of the various zoning districts plan of the comprehensive plan are completed. The issue of how sewer capacity affects this and future projects must be better reviewed, explored, and understood before a zone change that increases density is allowed. Next, there has been nothing presented in any event to suggest that this property appears to be undevelopable under its current zoning designation. And then Rich mentioned traffic on East Brown Road must also be considered.
That was a motion I was going to make. I just took it right out of my mouth.
Motion made by Richard to endorse the resolution as written.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ann to approve. One favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will send a recommendation to the town board to decline the request for zone change.
Thank you for making the right decision.
Just so everybody is aware, in this particular instance, we did ask for a public hearing before making a decision on the zone change. We've done that once or twice. It's not our habit of doing it. It will not be our habit to continue to do public hearings unless we feel that the circumstances really truly warrant it. So that I didn't want people think we do public hearings on every referral because we.
I wonder if the people there offered to buy this land so that they could keep it for a while, wherever you want.
We're not going to hear from you on that. Folks.
No.
The next item on our agenda. CTE of North America This is on for discussion, type plan amendment. This is the solar array that had previously been approved by this board. Sure, you have just provided us.
Yeah.
Can you, rather than go through the whole history of all of this, because we have heard you in great detail previously, can you enumerate for us the changes that you are looking?
Yes. And I have my colleague, Mark Rasmussen, on the Zoom. If we could promote him, that'd be great. He's the construction project manager. He has a bullet point list and some screenshots of the specific changes. Nothing major. Few changes to the access road, a few changes to our stormwater management. We submitted those changes in the site plan. We submitted a revised SWIP. You know, the project footprint doesn't change. We're not increasing our acreage. We're not increasing the number of panels. We're not changing the access road routing. We're not moving our equipment pads. It's very minor changes. So we hope to get this approved tonight and then work with Doug Miller on a stormwater approval, MS4 acceptance form, and then move to a building permit. We have our financier aligned. We have our construction team ready to go.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because,
Let me just interject.
okay,
Both Lisa and I have been going back with Carson for a month or two, and as they got into the construction phase after they received their approvals, there were some minor tweaks here and there. And, you know, there was one, then there was two, there was three, there was four. So in concert, we all felt that it was best to bring Carson back in. I don't think, just like he said, I don't think there's anything major, but we thought it was at a point where we should just get an amended site plan. I don't think there's anything in here. There's a major consequence, but we thought you folks should see it. So it was publicly vetted and that everybody knows what the changes were. And we did it in some type of a public forum. So I think if Carson had those bullet points, that would be.
and I appreciate that. I guess what I'm saying is I get a set of plans.
Yeah.
And I am not going to go back to the previous plans.
Yeah.
And go page by page. I want to see
Understood.
exactly what's being changed.
Yes, and Mark's got that for you. So I'm gonna stop talking and we'll pick it up here.
Can you hear us, Mark?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you guys hear me?
I hear you.
Very good. Well, good. I'm not there in person this time, but it's good to see everyone again. So that, like Carson mentioned, I'm just going to go through some of the changes. So here's a quick summary of all the changes. I have pictures. I know this is a little wordy, but this is right from our civil engineer who isn't on the call. But if we need him to chime in, we can. But so the access road is used to be a pervious or porous gravel road. It's now going to be all standard gravel sections, and we added vegetative filter strips all around the access road. I'll show you that in a second. Additionally, we have greater separation between the road and the panels. That is because of the added vegetative filter strips. There's some areas where we did maintain the previous access road where there's steeper slope areas. We maintained the previous porous gravel access road. We removed the fourth bullet point. We removed the water bars to allow easier access to the project. Water bars can create some humps in the road and can cause maintenance issues, especially during snow removal activities. So that's why we made that change. Access roads are no longer temporary. We're making some of these changes so we can just have a permanent access road from the beginning. We don't have to make some of the access road be working on some of the access road at any point during the project. Once we initially build the access road, then we don't have to take it up again and redo it, which was, I think, part of the previous plan. The last thing I'll mention, and I don't have pictures showing it, but there will be some grading that's not shown in the civil drawings under the panels. The only reason we don't have that in the civil drawings right now is we're just waiting to finalize the racking drawings for the panels. So usually some of that grading, light grading comes after, but it'll all be stabilized at the end of the project, and our SWIP accounts for that and the limits of disturbance.
Okay, to refresh my memory, the access road comes off of 173 near the cell tower,
Yes,
and that's the only access.
correct.
Okay,
And we have
so I'm assuming you have now purchased the land. I see the stakes up around the cell tower.
yes,
So it's been surveyed and bought.
yes. And recorded the subdivision. So, yeah. So
Yeah, the entrance way up Ruger Road.
we do, but it's only a short entrance for the utility company for a point of interconnection. It doesn't connect to the facility.
I can pull up, I can pull that drawing up.
These are all construction tweaks, and this is our last set of construction tweaks.
Yeah, we heard that last time.
So, we're shifting from the pervious gravel road to a standard gravel road in combination with vegetative filter strips. We're adding more spacing between the vegetative filter strips and the panels, which is increasing the spacing from the panels to the road. We only have one access road now, not a temporary construction access road and a permanent access road, just one permanent access road. And we're doing a little bit more grading underneath the panels.
Is that the one that we went to the back is bumpy?
Yes, we're gonna improve that.
That will be your road.
That will be our main road, yeah.
And you're not expanding the size of this development, so you're not approaching on any of the setbacks, or it's
No.
basically the same size.
Same size, same number of panels, same, yeah, everything.
Doug, do you see any difference in stormwater?
No.
Looks to me like there's no impact that will be seen or the community will be seeing, and the structures aren't going to be changing.
Carson, have you got your panels yet?
That's a Mark question.
Okay, Mark, have you got your panels yet?
Yeah, we're just getting our panels in for this project.
Where are they coming from?
Mark, do you know who the manufacturer of those panels is
The country,
and what country they're coming from?
What country they're coming from? Let's see. Christina, where are they coming from? Let's see. Vietnam.
Well, I appreciate you coming back
Yeah.
to not just moving. Okay.
does anybody care to make a motion?
Make a motion
Valerie, or your motion is for what?
to approve the site plan amendment.
And the amendments to outline?
Yeah.
Okay. Question there, Ernie?
The original approval, we had a requirement to start construction. And we okay still with that?
Yeah, we're within our validity period of the special use permit. We have a few more months to pull the building permit.
Are you able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, motion made by Valerie,
I'll second, I guess.
second by Richard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for coming back, Carson.
Thank you. Good to see you
It's
guys.
not coming so long.
I know. I like working with the town of Manlius. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. The next item on our agenda is an application by Human Parks Housing. This is under an initial specification for a residential portion. We previously had seen property located at 5440 North Street, Fayetteville. It's all on one tax map number 086-2-6.1.
Good evening, James Stracher from CHA Consulting. With me tonight is Charlie Brewer, who represents Twin Ponds Housing LLC. And to log in. Everyone has copies of the plans. We do need 11 by 17s that I can.
Well, been presented.
Okay. So while he's pulling it up, just an orientation, as you are well aware, this project was previously, or the property was in previously for a zone change, where this portion of the site that we'll be bringing up momentarily, and I'll just bring it up on. Now, for modern technology, doesn't work, you go back to presentation work. So this portion of the property, which goes down into the full subdivision line with the commercial portion, is going through the approval process. It was rezoned to R5, which will allow multifamily. You have the senior living across the street, the AmeriQ, Mercedes, the Syracuse, and the Twin Ponds. Currently, there's a curb cut with access that works into the site, that works between the pond to the hillside. So we're looking at two different types of multifamily housing units on one more of your garden style apartments and other apartments that would have more of the townhome feel, where they would have garage units as are shown in the plans. So access point there with closed driveway with cul-de-sac that would allow for the residential feel to be seen off of North 3rd Street. Traversing between the two ponds, we would carry the townhome style apartments into the main site, where we would then construct the garden style apartments. Off-site is Limestone Creek, winding through. As everyone may know by driving through this area, there is some substantial grade change. So we pulled out areas that have steep slopes as part of our calculation. Overall, we're proposing 276 units in this project. And we're just coming in for initial comment and feedback. We realized through the process, there was a traffic study previously completed as part of the zone change, but stormwater grading, all those components that you talked about and other projects tonight, we would bring back to you, but want to start the dialogue with the board about this type of projects in this area. The units here would be a combination of 1s and 2s and a limited number of 3s bedroom units. There has been a conversation about eliminating the 3-bedroom units and taking them back to 2-bedroom units. One of the other components in the R5 zoning is height of the building. Based on some of the grade changes, one of the things that we would like to consider is the potential, and we realize we would have to go to the zoning board, is on these units, having them be 4-story, so we can get a little bit greater density on the site that matches the density that we're allowed from a visual standpoint off of Burdick Street. The 3s and the 4s would blend together. And you have, I believe that in one of the renderings that we have. So,
What are you anticipating the price?
in terms of rental,
Price,
Yeah, they'd be over $2,000.
even, is that your lowest? Yeah,
so it's market rate,
The one bedroom is gonna be like.
So this plan, the way it's laid out, you've taken into consideration our setbacks, our buffers from wetlands, from drainage ways, from all those things have been taken into consideration.
I believe so. When Brad started my office, he was the designer on this, went through this, he went through the regulations, steep slope, all that, and went through a
I'd
calculation.
be shocked if this was, I'm looking at the things. The east end of the property, you got several buildings right up against the pond.
On this side?
And before we get to that, can I just, this is a threshold question. Density. Is the pond taken into account in the density calculations?
Yes.
The answer is cannot be.
That's the problem.
I did check on it, I took a vote.
Okay.
So. You use the pond.
You put that,
The question is, I mean. What's your density issue? How big is it? Is it,
It's not feasible, they'll use-
so if you don't use the pond, what kind of variance? So someone needs to do that calculation because that's gonna be the only thing that can happen.
Okay.
I'm not saying you're gonna get the variance,
Oh, no.
I'm just saying that, let's talk about that as a question issue.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about some of these other.
I'm gonna say something that I maybe wouldn't normally say. But a couple of us went to a county session on development, residential development, commercial development. And with the way the county and neighboring counties are going with future development. So we would have a way to possibly increase, to allow increased density through variance. Since this is an area where we now have already approved R5, so we take advantage of the R5 zoning. It's kind of a question. But
The answer is, it's all under consideration and advisement, because, ultimately the town needs to look at, it's zoned R5, what would it look like if you use the right density calculation that you have? And then, what does the town really want to do? And that, it's gotta be addressed, right?
Yeah. No, and that's.
If you look at that, and so, and just those numbers, so I just used in the areas of this house, right here. If we just take this screen where you got the access roads in coming into the apartment area without the pond, this is 14 acres, the pond is 22.11 acres. So if you just use that math, yeah, just so we're gonna go from 276 down to 140, 125, because it's really, greater percentage. So it, I guess from a hardship standpoint, unusual land features, those things, so if there's a case, on the, going through the standards of proof with the zoning board of appeals and saying, hey, we have these ponds that were created, and if it's something that folks want to see development on based on sale price things, different things that come into that, it's something that we can look at, because our other request, and this is the density is 3 units, meaning 4-story units, which have been run elsewhere under construction and into that hillside, it doesn't have.
I don't think there's any.
I know, right?
Nothing.
No, nothing yet. So we're working under the new world of Onondaga County in this region of like Micron coming in and looking at places where people can live. You can talk about Cicero, Clay, Lysander, Van Buren that are going to see that, but not everyone wants to live there. City of Syracuse is looking at how to redo their stuff. They've been working on rezone Syracuse for 3 years, and the mayor now has a big push to get that done for the city of Syracuse. Same side here is that, some of those people that are going to work with these complexes are the tier 1, tier 2 spinoff from Micron. This would be a great place with access getting to the northern suburbs. So, we can go through those calculations and look at those things, but we just believe in this area, it's a good complement to what, the town already has.
But I just from my perspective, I'm not sure what anyone else is. We have to live under existing laws.
Understood.
And what you're saying is, yeah, sometime maybe in the future things change, but they aren't changed yet.
Okay, and that's perfectly fine, but if it's one of those things if we can't use the pond based on conversation with the town attorney, that's something
Yes.
we have to take into consideration of, do we, look at, a variance that looks at the density and then the height request and go to the zoning board of appeals. And would the zoning board of appeals look for a recommendation from this body on our variance application?
Well, I think they would, certainly on. He was one of another group, this is an unusual piece of land. It's been attempted to be developed for a long time. And the board, town board may want to look at something.
Okay.
Okay, we never have done something like PDD. Maybe that needs to be talked about. So this board is hamstrung.
Okay.
And so this is really important. This board has to live by.
Yep.
Feedback.
Totally understand.
And that this isn't going to work.
Okay.
Under those rules. So now the question is, what can be done, what should be done? And from a recommendation from a planning board, as the town planners, you know, to say, hey, don't even think about this, this was never something. But I don't know, maybe they will, I don't know, not that.
Right.
So.
Just the process being amended. There's obviously it's back for verdict. Yeah, there's a bunch of great changes. The visual impact from verdict is essentially the same as preschool. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, I think the other thing is too, what's in your. I think this is the survey of the entire Vieta parcel, so that's not what we're talking about. Right, correct. So we had to do just your parcel, right?
Yeah, there's, you know, in terms of the acreage, you're 14 acres, you know,
Yeah.
in terms of developable land, you take this land plus this land, these are the steep slope areas that get removed.
Yeah, because it says the parcel size here is 52.2 acres.
That's just because the subdivision isn't finalized yet. So that's just our piece.
Correct, so there's a
Unless
commercial piece.
unless the subdivision has been signed.
It's general, the parameters of it.
So we like to.
I think this is the line.
Where are we building?
What are you doing apartments now?
We're doing 250 units on Meadow Lake, off
No,
Lake Shore Road.
yeah.
Developer.
I mean, I know they're looking for some input from us. But wouldn't the first step be subdivision?
Well,
Because it's between 5 and 10 acres and.
you're not.
The total land that we are believing that we will have at the end of the day is 55 acres, plus or
including the
minus,
ponds.
including the ponds. You know, the lower in our calculation, as I was saying, we took 14 acres, you know,
Our favorite stuff.
yeah, I know what here, you know, of this map right here, you know, I'll just put the map, you know, there's 14 acres here, 22 acres here. This other area is what classifies as steep slope under the code. So these are the numbers that we use in the calculations, you know, if we pull out the 22 acres, the total density goes down by, you know.
I'll give you some input. I won't vote on that project unless it exits at the traffic light. And it does not exit at the traffic light. But that's just me. How many votes am I going to? One, just one. But
I really want it at the current traffic light, if there was other traffic improvements that, you know, the DOT would want to see.
You just specify which track.
Well, there's gonna be a new.
the one at Medical Center Drive. I mean, that's always what I thought should be done. And
So
you're
here,
not the way it's laid out.
where my cursor is?
Yeah, right there. Yep.
Those are things that, you know, through a process, if we can get to the density and get to other things, it's something that can work out. for whatever reason. We were using that location, there's currently a Jackson, an existing curb cut that is, you know, exists there, but we can always take care of that.
But I do think when you look at
I just have a
Parcel.
couple more questions, like as an initial presentation discussion. I assume like it's due to landscape, with steep slopes and ponds and wetlands. And as to the layout configuration of buildings for the most part. But I just want to hear why you chose to do some duplexes and apartments, not all apartments or not all duplexes. And I also wonder if there's a way to avoid like parking lots right up at the pond, like to make it more of a residential community type feel. I mean, I would love to see, like, if this is gonna be a high density area, like a more updated progressive approach where it's actually a community itself with the surrounding commercial areas where they have, is it possible to put in a, like, even just a community, little community building, a gazebo, a park, possibly a pool, I don't know, it's initial presentations, I'm throwing those things out I feel like this is a really, I've said this before to the other people, the Twin Shores people, this is a really nice space that we have opportunity for with ponds, with Limestone Creek, with the bike path there, with the canal, any connections that you guys have ability to make to those, to make, again, especially if these are gonna be $2,000 a month and up, to give these people something to live there for.
Yeah, here from an initial standpoint coming in and starting conversation is from I'll use a density, height of building, etc. Is it, something that this board would desire to see in this area? And then all those components to projects, people who are coming in, they do want to see community center, they want to see fitness, they want to be able to walk. And so I hate to use the word a massing plan, but like, the initial layout is, what can we get on the site based on what we have? And then it gets into tweaking parking lots, adding more green space, connections between buildings. These units here, we have a project in Baldwinsville, which is right off the river where we have these buildings sitting on the river where the parking's pulled to the roadside and the buildings are sitting on the river. So, you have, 65% of your units having riverfront views. And so with these ponds, sort of the same scenario, if we can pull the parking away and do different stuff, we would do that, because that, I hate to say it, takes a $2,000 a month apartment and makes it $3,000, because I can use 2-bedroom in Baldwinsville is going for $2,700. On the Seneca River, you come just used to this side of town, there's a potential for, they ask for greater dollars. So, so they're all things we do. And, what if it was like timeout, we don't want to see this, Charlie Brewer goes back to thinking about other things and, we say, wipe this out. But if there is potentially a path and going to the town board talking about a PUD, PDD, I don't know what it is in the town, or, variances, those with having some positive thoughts from the planning board that every board looks at is like, or is this just a non-starter type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to consider is if the rent, what that might, what's the potential to make it an affordable housing. So.
I just did a project in the place where people use the word affordable, and people don't like sometimes the word affordable.
Well, affordable is.
So if you want to talk 80% AMI, 90% AMI, whether it's like here, the county and the city, they're looking at those type of things. I'll use people, typically developers are looking at for pilots or tax abatements, because if they get that 20% workforce housing, communities, county, city is willing to offer those types of pilot benefits, in terms of property taxes. Those, but I can't speak to him on the, workforce, type of housing. We don't like to use the word affordable, we use workforce housing, and then you can take the percentage of AMI from 30% up to 120%.
Well, affordable meaning for the type of housing that people would be able to afford that with their income level.
So you're talking income qualified, where you have an organization qualified. I'll just use specifically teachers, firemen, police, things on incomes. They're getting income qualified by someone, and then they're put into a unit. So the project we've done, I currently have one in Ithaca. We just first project, and from his other side of the aisle, he's involved in the construction of that project. It will be on the planning board and voted on the city council for the first one in the city of Syracuse in years. So there's things we can do.
So, Jamie, where do we go? We refer this to the ZBA to get some variances, or?
I was looking for conditional approval. We'll get granted, we'll do whatever. You're gonna be graded first, don't worry about
They were trying to get.
Yeah.
Sense feedback.
We're just initial touch and feel of like, is this way too far out there, or is like, this is something, because I believe going back 15 years ago, when I had more hair, Michael Santoro, I believe, don't listen, Frank Mento was in my office, we came here years ago trying to talk about stuff on this piece of property, and it's turned over, and I worked on this piece of property like 5 years ago. So when he first came into our office, I was like, I'm not sure, you know, the thoughts and feels, so this was our initial statement of, let's go to the planning board and have some initial feedback of, is this something that community from the planning perspective would like to see? And then we can try to find a process to get some type of.
My opinion, it's a great area to develop. I think, getting housing in there is a fantastic idea. And I think what you have here, though, it's too dense, you're cramming it too much in here. I would love to have you come in with a good plan that is gonna be appropriate. I wanted it. I wanted development there. And good housing development is perfect for that location. It'll help the town and it'll be good for the people who buy there. But I am concerned that you get too many in there.
You're absolutely right.
But how do they, right? So
Hard.
is it at, if you each density is half? Or is it something in between that and this? Right?
I think it's probably half, but then it comes down to economics.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. And then you have to go back to the owner and say, hey, I can't pay you this much, but I can pay you this.
Well, the development cost, it's not probably not just price of land. If you've ever been up, it's the development cost.
But the landlord.
It's site work and then, just construction materials, you turn it on the other ones,
The land cost is a starting point.
Yeah.
Very, I agree with it.
Can you do something in there? 140 units? No,
And there's a reason why it hasn't been.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not opposed to the forest. Especially if you say that it's like from the road, it looks like 3-star, and I just feel like we don't have a lot of space in the town where 4-story would work. But again, I went to that county thing,
So you're all.
275.
Somewhere.
Second auction.
I don't think people who would be living there would be opposed to.
It's always a tough thing when you come into a unique site like this where, it's in a great location, the people who want to know it's in a great location, and then you try to start working into the math of the construction costs with land values, with carrying costs and all those type of things. And it's something we can go back and work with, Chuck and his team on, but, the deviation in numbers, cutting half off, we're not trying to be like, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, coming in here and being like a hog and saying like, hey, this is carried away. I got a project that's just started in Vail, Colorado, steep slopes. And so the cost of land, same type of things. It's like, how great a density can you, is a community willing to allow that gives something beautiful, and you have a lot of great land that's going to go here where people can walk. You can put walking trails up steep slopes so people can climb and hike and, do different things, but trying to take the density and put it into a smaller footprint and still make it work financially. Or
So what I'm hearing, you came in saying, oh, we can use the pond. And
No.
if we can, this works.
Yeah.
This was not.
Yeah.
You can't use the pond, so you get about half. Everybody hearing the agrees that might not be reasonable for this property. So, do you think you would recommend I come in with something that is a little different in density? And then there needs to be a discussion with the town board about whether we try to go a variance route or we try to extend.
Something in this area that changes. That's not,
I did have a question, though. I'm seeing you have more land available to you as you move a little further east. Where you got the 4-story buildings.
It's where you get to that.
You got one little pocket wetland, like,
Is that why?
I think it's that there.
So this is the wetland.
this little thing right here. So when you ran his numbers, he took all that into account.
Yeah, so that is removed steep slopes because of
That
that,
wetlands and everything
yeah,
else.
yeah.
So I have a
we really wanted to use a pond because we're gonna canoe, we're gonna kayak, it's gonna be a great amenity to this facility.
comment.
Yep.
I think that it's a great site to develop for residential. I think proximity to the area uses in the area. I think that you've taken the green area that you have now including the water and tried to really squeeze everything in. You could to have something for us to look at to kind of get a visual on. I'm guessing that these are like stamps, blocks that you dropped on from other projects and stuff.
Correct.
So, I suspect that, I'm not up to speed on the numbers and everything that everybody's talking about, but I can see lots of opportunities to maybe customize things for the site and come up and maybe that affects your numbers a little bit. When you're taking all that into account, I think that using, having access, like we were talking about the light coming out of the light or making another light, I think those things are really important and that might drive where and how many units you have. So the project isn't to that point yet, obviously, but I think that might factor into it too. And you can't, I don't think it's a good idea to have anybody backing out into that entry drive. And so, is there a way to kind of morph some of these blocks that you're using up with this idea that might get you closer on some of the numbers that you're looking for? Consolidating some of the, parking things and then taking a much closer look at the walkability, the livability of what this community might want to see. I think that will impact your numbers some. And I personally don't have a problem with the 4-story building. I think the image that you showed is good. It's a starting point to customize things. And I think that the 4-story is not in competition with the scale of the site, given the massive grade changes and stuff that you see. That could be an asset. It could be something really unique and different. I think that people want to see that in Manlius. They don't want to see the same thing that they're seeing in Baldwinsville. And so I think that this is a wonderful opportunity to develop this land that's been useless, but do it in a way that's neat.
Yeah.
Charlie, do you have access to a couple of last iterations of others that came in?
No.
Because, other people have come in and they've looked at them. If you wanted to come in and look, we could make them available, right? Are they easily accessible? One of the things that people have done, they looked at the site, the southern ponds in the jurisdiction.
Yep.
And I'm sure you've been out there. A lot of people in there. And when you take, and you do your cuts and fills, because it's not a jurisdictional, you can gain a little bit more on you can take the curse off your steep slopes.
So Steve.
Yeah.
There you were.
Because the other concern was when other people look at it, if you level that off and it's not jurisdictional, it gets you away from some of the safety factors. How steep it is, the cliffs and cement gravity.
Is there a way to, do you
But
guys
but
have
if you
access?
looked at those. Sorry, Lisa.
I think what I'm hearing, the general consensus is, it'd be nice to have this type of facility in that area. And now it's getting down to the nitty gritty to figure out how many units, how to calculate it, how many stories, all those types of things that,
Do you guys have access to the property?
Yes.
Just driving by, it's really hard to tell where the slopes are,
Yeah.
like what. Yeah, I know that was really helpful for the solar, but we get You can't see it from the road when they're in there.
Oh.
Just as we're kind of thinking to going forward.
100%. No, when we get in there, it gives you a different perspective on, others you would say moving buildings, 10 feet this way,
Yeah,
and then
can't
you
tell from
realize
the
like,
road and-
and here we don't have
Trying to-
all the contours now, but like, the contours, when you get, the areas that we didn't use are so steep, that's why they're not, any additional acreage we could have picked up, we would have, so.
You have a full topo survey, like LiDAR or something?
Yeah.
Can you send that over?
Yep.
I'd love to see it.
One of the things.
It's still tight, but when you're walking through the access drive between the two ponds, you can start, okay, like, there, can we do some different stuff and, not having people back into, the main access drive, we can work on things, but it's always gonna be a little difficult, because when you get there, you see, the north pond to the south. So we'd love to have a field trip, maybe the winter stays well, or we do something early spring based on this timetable and what he has, and,
Sure.
options, contracts, all that type of stuff.
Now's the time to see everything.
Yeah.
One of the things that's important are the buffers. Because you can't get a variance for buffers. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wetlands, easements, drainage ways, there's several different things for, you've got to have 25-foot, by recollection, it's 25-foot buffers. And those are not something you can get a variance. So when I look at the ponds and so on, I'm concerned.
The ponds are one. So the wetlands are to the east.
It
So this is a sewer right away that goes through, and it's actually on the backside of a deep drop off. That's where the pretty much the wetland
It's in the
delineation is,
wetlands.
other than a few
Right.
pockets.
Yep.
So I think, we created this a few weeks ago, so I got check, but I believe it's on the survey too.
I think the backside of the north pond's jurisdiction. I think so, Charlie. But the south pond is not. I could be wrong, but
That might be, you're right. That might be.
I don't think it, to your point, I don't think it really does. And it may be our core jurisdiction.
As I said, so like Jim Fahey, he's an architect, we work with a lot of apartment projects, he's out of Rochester, he's done a lot of stuff on the lakes out there, and, Canada. So, his architectural rendering and designs, but, we started, said, hey, give us a footprint that we can go with and just see how we can get to, a massing and a number of units. And so we can work with him on different footprints, I'll use consolidating some of this stuff. So he has build it potentially closer together and, allowing the green space outside of things so you can get some of the other amenities, gazebo, sitting areas, things that folks in community.
Also, we already mentioned the healthy about how people are turning around the distillery on that site. I'm not sure if that's really what the town is so on.
So we look at these as all as driveways, so I'll just you go to White, you back out to the driveway, so those are so it's not a public road, so that's another great thing, so everything here would be owned, operated, maintained. So we will look at all those things and, when we come back and have the next conversation after we go through them of what we can do in terms of building, footprint, orientation.
Who would be managing?
But
Who would be managing?
We have a third party manager that manages most of our property, whether it be a partner.
I get to go ahead, I would love to see you back, work on a couple of those things, just to save yourself some time in the board meeting process. That main entry drive especially, people are gonna get up a lot of speed in there. They're gonna have a straight shot up, so I won't have anybody back that.
Yeah, well, I like to come based on the conversation here, we're bringing, probably main curb cut down here so we can come to a signalized location.
And then, in any of these type of things, there's ways of doing traffic calming in terms of putting a little radiuses or using some of the, speed humps, but the elevated areas where, from a plowing standpoint, it doesn't disrupt the files, but visually as you're driving in, you see it, increasing grade and you slow down. So I think there's things that we can do that work with the two time locations and remedy a lot of those type of things. So we appreciate your time and Jamie, I'll reach out to you and talk about,
Well, yeah, and, the chairs could do breakfast as well.
I like the idea,
Yeah.
and I don't mind the 4-story. In that particular location, it's gonna have virtually no impact on the rest of the community.
What about 5? Just, you have to go, we can, No, because I just use that as, and he won't like to hear it, but like, you go to these places where people like parking interior, so you get into these type of things where if you could have a podium level below where you have, parking, under a building like 4 stories of living, you're still accomplishing it. You might not like the cost, but it's a product that's not available here. You go across the country, you see these type of things, but when people are looking at renting transient type of people, there's a big thing. If you're paying top dollar, you're willing to have your car, have your horse, So we've looked at this with other developers, and I'll use, contractors, which they are, and his other life is like, yeah, the cost of putting that is, might not work, but, it's something that no one has out there. Like these, units here, they have garage units in the end where you enter a hallway, then you enter the floor. So, there's 14 garages that, people love. They pull in and they're into their apartment building versus parking outside. But if you could, based on the size of the building, we could do something creative, but that would then, we would want to be 5 stories. But yeah, that's way out there, but it's one of the basements would be underwater, those cars. No, that would be, it would be podium on the lower level. So it'd be, so like when you would look, it would be wrapped. It would look like a residential building. You would just have, garage spaces there and then, living above. So living would really start on floor 2 and your first level would be a garage. You wouldn't know it visually, but there are things that, we do in other parts of the country, but we haven't done.
That'd be creative.
Yeah.
I
So,
think covered parking is very desirable.
Yes, definitely.
Especially at that first point.
Yeah, especially here.
so we appreciate your time, with college football managers and national championship.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for mentioning it.
Hey, everything happens in the second half of the game, you can always fight back or do something. Buffalo, that's when, Josh Allen turned it on the other day. He decided to go deep, instead of all things else. And then he's gonna take down, a 2 of Miami Dolphins, days.
Okay, so you'd like us to come back in?
Let's see something a little, that takes into account this, and everything next day will be just, are we going variance, are we going to town board, are we going to try to?
And if possible, I would love to see the site.
Is that something, from a board standpoint, it's,
Maybe it's just me.
there's something we could do if there's a certain time or day or something that we can coordinate this, doing 7 different tours is, we'd rather have people, so you're talking together about when you're walking. Oh,
We can have more than 3 people at a time.
Can we get permission to go on our own?
I'm sure that's good, okay.
I'm fine with doing it.
I'm more than happy to.
You don't even need to open the gate.
you get that early.
Yeah. Next week, Lisa, she can reach out to, let us know what the.
I think it really is going to be important if we have enough.
Yeah.
It is extremely.
That's why we like it.
And that's why I think it needs to be approaching.
So, we appreciate your time and comments, and we'll be back and we'll reach out the next day so we can get, things coordinated and we can come get copies or have things reproduced so we know what other people have thought about in the past.
You have send over the topo?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
I'd like to say one thing to the board. Charlie reached out to us, probably about a month ago. And the chair thought it was important for all of you to see this presentation, not just a one-on-one with the chair and the attorney. So I think kudos to Joe, because I think this was really productive.
No.
Yeah, thank you.
Got good feedback.
Right? Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you for coming. Folks, ordinarily, we would include our business, but if you think it is something else.
I have one thing, Jamie, to ask, I don't remember, if it was the last meeting or the meeting before, we were discussing recommendation for Eastern Hills Bible Church, go to RN. And I thought we talked about sending a letter to town board that said, we'd like to talk to you about why you made the changes to the RM zone. And we wanted to get some feedback before we made the recommendation.
I don't think it was, I don't think that's what happened. That-
Okay.
That we would ask for a letter.
Not a letter,
But I-
but just some discussion of, okay, you made some changes to the RM zone. Fill us in on why, so we can better make a recommendation on the Eastern Hills Bible. This is what I remember
Yeah.
we discussed. Whether or not that was done, I don't know, but that's kind of what I remember happening.
I can answer it right now. I can think about what
Okay,
happened. I don't think that's.
because I
what it
don't
was.
think we ever voted on a recommendation. We were waiting to get feedback.
We did not. Take the recommendation.
We sent comments.
Right. And I don't know, why did you add restaurants? Why did you do something to that? Well, so
At least we're not recommendations. Right? We put, you know, for information, blah, blah, blah.
that was one. So, and I haven't looked at the town board agenda for Wednesday night. But is this something they're going to, do we know? Anybody know? Is it
I
something
understand
they're-
it's on the agenda. They may make a recommendation on some change. They're free to do so.
It's their job.
So we did not make a recommendation. We were looking for a little assistance on it, and I think they're going to give us assistance based on it.
I think we heard the issues. I think we do hear them. The fact that they may have not, it's like that they heard it.
All right, I didn't know where that stood. It's unfortunate because I wish we had more communication with the town board on issues like that.
This is the best meeting. Chat. So, two questions. One was, anybody calculate us for increasing the level of portability or starting solutions? And the second question was, things. We are in. You get an answer. Okay, well, I think we were trying to open up communication. We did have a meeting with town supervisor this past week. And the town supervisor was encouraging as far as his desire to communication between all three boards. And all we need to do is we need to communicate with them and proceed forward with that. And we will have communication. We all make an effort to do it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.